sharing. Hopefully I have everything set up. So that'll work too.
Yeah, it says the meeting is now live streaming on YouTube.
Well, hallelujah.
That's
Then
what it says on this.
that means the 3 times I've tried to set it up, I set it up properly at least one of those times.
Yes.
Ah, hi, Danielle. Nice to see you. We haven't seen you in here before.
Nice to see you.
So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, now I'm just going to pull this up quickly. Go back to my. So I think you can all see that, or is my other image of the small view of people in the way?
Oh, we can see it.
Okay, so I thought I'll just throw this up. Anybody that wants to get in touch with me, I've got the free Facebook group where we're working with small businesses of 5 million or less, primarily in the B2B space, working through getting their marketing plan together. So that's been a great group. It's free at this point. I will be having a more in-depth group that will be an option for people, and that will be a paid group. Anyway, my journal is coming, and that is available January 20th on Amazon. And I'm excited about that because I want anybody that can possibly have it to have it, because it's about encouraging ourselves and other people to record our ideas, hopes, and dreams and honor them and have a way of keeping track and just doing it. And then the last box there on the right is my email. So if you want to get a hold of me or you want me to send you something or whatever, that's what we got. Now I'm going to take my sharing off momentarily, and Renee's here too, and Vicky and Tom does get the prize because he's tuning in from California, so it's a little early out there for him. And Curtis gets the prize because he's tuning in from the extremely frozen tundra. And I can only say that because I'm from North Dakota myself. All right. So we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I think, is that Dave tuning in? Yeah, Dave, nice to have you back. Awesome. So I'll just do a quick little who am I, because most of you know me and maybe you don't or can't remember. I'll see if I can remember. So I started working in strategic marketing years ago. My first real gig was at Medtronic, where I worked in product marketing and had pacemakers and, kind of techie stuff like that to work on. And I didn't know how to do a lot of hands-on stuff, even though I had an MBA. And you think, okay, got me an MBA. I really know something now. Well, you find out that you don't know a lot of hands-on stuff once you get to a job, because things are different. So I have, over the years, worked really, really hard to learn everything I can about primarily market planning and strategic marketing, and now what we call voice of customer, all that kind of stuff. I just love the whole world of marketing strategy. So I have a lot of fun with it, and I spend a lot of time keeping up and learning new ideas and things like that. And I'm here to be a resource and to help people save time so that you don't have to spend 30 plus years trying to get up to speed on something that might not be what you do all day, every day. And it is what I do all day, every day. And I just think it's fun and I love it. And so I get all excited to be able to share with people and help them grow their business. So my number one goal is, turn off my phone beeping. My number one goal is to work with businesses that want to grow. And again, my specialty is primarily in the B2B space. Doesn't mean that things that we talk about aren't applicable. Here we go, a little light on the subject. And so there are other things that we'll be talking about that apply to consumer businesses. My expertise is B2B. So just to give you that background, and I come from high tech, med tech, and industrial companies, love manufacturing, have actually probably done more work than anything in service businesses, which I didn't go out to do. And all of a sudden, when you go back and you look at your data, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did a whole bunch of service businesses. So that's my story. Now, did anybody come with a question that we can roll out and work on? And you can unmute yourself.
I was
Okay,
just wondering,
Danielle.
hi, I was just wondering if anybody else has gone down the rabbit hole of Chat GPT.
Ah, yes. All right. So those of you that don't know that, are those the correct letters, GPT?
Correct.
I've got it saved somewhere. So, have you spent much time on it, Danielle?
I have recently, just in the last few days, I kind of went down a rabbit hole and found that it was really interesting. I've been currently, it's free. So I've been scurrying around trying to ask it a ton of questions and get a ton of data for my own content marketing. But I think it's really going to revolutionize the way that we can utilize it for copywriting or content marketing for our clients. I certainly don't want to put myself as a graphic designer out of business or any of my copywriting, coworkers and referral partners out of business at all, but I think it could help us generate things faster. And
Yes.
I'm excited about that.
Awesome. So let me give you a little thumbnail sketch of what Chat GPT is. And you might want to do the same thing. Maybe you want to set a timer so you don't go down the rabbit hole for too many hours.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I do when, I can't remember if I shared in this group, but one of the ideas when we're working on different projects or whatever is set a timer, because if it's something that we kind of like or are intrigued by, it will go down that rabbit hole. We will just spend a whole ton of time. And the other thing is, if we're in a low energy spot, that's when we tend to go do some of these things that aren't all that productive. So just kind of pay attention to your energy. I really like the idea, set the timer. That's from Ron Friedman, who's a PhD, that has a lot of great information. Anyway, back to Chat GPT. It is a resource that has put together information on just about any topic you can imagine. And like Danielle, I went down the rabbit hole because I thought, I'm going to see if this is any good. And I had recently shared in my Facebook group, I had recently shared some things on benchmarking. And I thought, I got a whole 2 to 4 inch file on benchmarking. Let me see what they know. So I put in benchmarking and they came back more with the technical side, because benchmarking is also a concept that's used in technical fields like engineering and that kind of thing. So I got that and I'm like, take it into my engineer that lives with me. And I go, what do you think about this? He goes, yeah, I think they're right. I'd say this different, that different. And then I thought, all right, I'm going to do business benchmarking. So I did that. And I told mine always to give me an article. You can have it give you, I don't even know what all the options are, but I thought I just want to see what it will give me in an article format, because then that is something I would use to create a post, an article, maybe even use that as content to do the dialogue for a video. So I then had to do business benchmarking. Ooh, that was way better. And of course, that's my world, is the business benchmarking side of things. So I think it is a really good resource. I have been told that it's done in such a way that if you use their content as is, it will not be copyright infringement. I have asked my other group that I'm with, my coach is in Scotland, and we've got a group of people, and we were talking about it, and I said, does anybody know what the copyright laws are on this? If I take that document that they produced on business benchmarking, can I copyright it as mine? I mean, what's the story? So I don't know about that. What I would say is, if you use that, make sure it's a topic that you know about and know at least the fundamentals, so you can yourself judge if it is, Dave. Danielle, do you want to put it in chat for Dave, or maybe even a link? Since my producer is in California and doesn't usually get online this early.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what is that? Like a link to where
for the Chat GPT.
Well, I just chimed in, that I had never heard of this before. Is this a website or something? And I apologize if I'm slowing down the group with my ignorance, but
No, you are absolutely fine. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's cropping up these days. What I would say is, if you use this, again, make sure you know the subject well enough to know if they're accurate. And then the other thing, again, reviewing with my engineer grammarian, my editor expert, we were chatting, and there's some things like you maybe want to write a different intro or a different conclusion. So make it yours. The other thing is, if you're familiar with some of this jargon, I used to teach business communications. It's one of my classes. Do things like enumerate, signpost, do some of those things, use bullets. I think that will make it more readable. So I think it looks like it's pretty good for content. I think about 10 or 15 different articles. All right, Danielle, what else would you like to say?
I was just going to say that apparently there are places where you can run it through then another source where it will rephrase it for you, or you can run it through kind of like a fact checker where it will say, this was where it can tell you whether it was created by an automated, bot, or if it was handwritten. So yes, I agree that it would be good to use, something you're very familiar with and to rewrite it and make it yours,
Yeah. So anyway, check it out, see what you think. Danielle, have you run into any of those fact checking or other editing sources that you mentioned you've heard about? Because I haven't.
I have not delved into them yet. I've just seen a very high level of it as I've been doing my own little research, and I've been seeing what other creators are saying about it. I have not actually run it through any of those sources yet myself. Getting a lot of information from TikTok because you can just run through it so quickly, and you can get a lot of information so, quickly. So.
Okay, awesome. So great question. And I think it's certainly something to take a look at and see if it is going to help you be more efficient. And again, when you're putting something out, you still want to be able to say, it is my creation. So that's the part of everybody's personal integrity, I think, that factors in here. Great question. Anybody else have a question?
In a similar vein, maybe I would ask, our company is implementing EOS, and just wondering people's experience with that. So I'm already learning about rocks and L10s, and my head's spinning a little bit, but I'm just wondering if people have used that. And I see the traction book from Lori. So positive or negative, I'd love to hear people's comments.
I was going to jump in, but I'll let Lori jump in first because she was the prop presenter of that really awesome book.
I brought it with today because sounds like similar to you, John. I wanted to confer with Becky to see, are you familiar with EOS, and just weigh in. What are your thoughts? I really am enjoying the book. I had a few different people recommend it to me. So I'm in learner mode.
Well, Tom, I know you are pretty familiar with EOS, so you want to share any thoughts?
Yeah, would love to. Thank you so much. So EOS, I read that book several times. Really perfect timing for it this time of year. I am really good friends with several EOS implementers as well as integrators. Several are in the Twin Cities, and I'm out here in California, everywhere. So I probably know nationally close to 70 people that are implementers, integrators, and people that work for corporate. I've used it. I'm using it right now with some groups I'm in. And the reason for kind of the volume of so many people that are involved with it is I used to work for Vistage for about 11 years. I don't know if everyone is familiar with Vistage, but a lot of that Vistage crowd, being the chairs, the members, the speakers, have went over to EOS and are now working for EOS. So super effective, big fan of it, love the book, and I'm always promoting it anytime I can.
That's a little bit off our marketing, but it is kind of a strategy question. So I will give you my thumbnail sketch of it, and then anybody can jump in, or we'll move into some other questions. So Traction, EOS, is Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it really comes out of actually Cypress Semiconductor, and was put together by somebody there. And then I believe Gino Wickman, the guy that wrote the book, kind of took it from that. So what it basically is a way to run your business. And I think any of us that came out of corporate America have probably had this pounded in our head because there always is more structure when you come out of corporate America, and more process and more procedure and more of everything in the meetings. And hopefully if you come out of corporate, you had meetings where you had agendas and you had timelines and all of that was organized, because the real true, I think, blessing of EOS is it forces companies to really get clear and be organized and be more effective and more efficient. And like I said, I think it really came out because for a lot of small businesses, and you can all probably relate or have had experience, if you're not in a small business, you certainly know people that are, that a small business might have started because somebody had a great idea on a product, or they said, man, I come from big corporate, I come from 3M, and we did some research, and in the lab, we came up with this great idea, but gee, the market's too small. So 3M says, we're killing this thing. Don't waste your time on it. And you go, wow, this would be a great business. I'm going to go do it. And then you go out and you might not know really how to run a business or an organization. And you're all excited about the product or service that you've got, and you get it all going and you get your team and everything is rolling, but you're not sure how to run the organization. Now, again, if you came out of big corporate like 3M, some of this should be pounded in your head. But for those of us that haven't had that experience, or anyone that hasn't, it just gives you a good framework for working. And they have their own lingo of ROCs and L10 and, you know, all kinds of things that help people zero in. Because if you're talking to somebody, they go, well, what are your ROCs? And those of us that haven't been in EOS are like, what are you people talking about? But if you've been in EOS, it just shortcuts and you know exactly what people are talking about. So I'd like to move on unless anybody has anything else to add, because it is certainly an interesting approach to getting an organization more effective and more efficient. Gino Wickman has written, I think maybe a few books. There's a couple books out that I think he also wrote that are more examples and case studies. So if you say, hey, I want to learn this, I want to learn some things that I can use, those are helpful books too. I know one of them is Bright Orange, and I must have loaned mine out because I don't see it in the shelf here. But there are other materials. You can also go to the EOS website, and they, at least they used to, they changed their structure now, so they're a franchise operation, and it might have changed a little bit, but you used to be able to, if you still can, I don't know, go to their website and download tons of forms, worksheet type of things. So it will help you guide your organization in that process.
Yeah, this is the Bright Orange one you're talking
There
about.
you go. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, our company is we're maybe 9 months into implementing it. And, you know, and I agree, this is kind of off the marketing topic, but, you know, probably the topic that relates to marketing is when you're developing your scorecard, what are the metrics that you want to track? Because that's a pretty big deal. Like, for example, in our sales department, we were tracking weekly sales, but when you sell through distribution, your reaction time, because you have to go through the multiple channels of distribution, you can't respond to weekly blips in the sales process. You know, you really need to be looking at, say, a 3-month window. So if sales are down for 3 months, you know, because the time it takes you to ramp up a national promotion goes way beyond a week. So they're setting up the scorecard is really the important part, or the challenging part.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Dave. And that's where too, sometimes you don't know what the true benefit is till you start using a new tool or a new process approach or something. Great, great, great. Thank you. Now, any other questions that might be in the marketing strategy or sales area? And you never know, we'll just maybe go with whatever. Anybody have anything else that you brought? How many people here do benchmarking and are familiar with benchmarking, since I brought that up as one of the things I was digging through on the chat GPT. All right, well, I'm thinking maybe we'll take a look at that a little bit. Dave, do you guys benchmark?
Well, we do product benchmarking, but I don't know that I would say that we have a real structured approach to it. We'll get a complaint about product or a competitor, we'll bring them in and we'll do that competitive testing. But I think but it's not regular, it's not organized. I don't know that you really call it a true benchmark.
Okay, so I thought I would share some things if people were interested in exploring that topic a little bit. Okay. Here we go. I think you can see this. So this is a topic that I used to do a lot of work in. So this might be more than you want to know. So take that with a grain of salt, because like I said, my file, I can't remember, I put it away. It was either 2 or 4 inches. So there's a lot of stuff. Anyway, benchmarking really came about and is an element of the Malcolm Baldrige Awards. And you may or may not be familiar with that. That was a pretty hot topic, maybe 20, 30 years ago. And people are still going after the Baldrige Award. However, I don't know if it's quite the buzz that it was. And where a lot of that also came from was from Edward Demings. And he was famous for doing a lot in Japan and turning around the industry in Japan, again, probably longer ago than 30 years. And also is sometimes associated with another concept called Kaizen, if you're familiar with that. So when you look at benchmarking, it's as you see, I've got the definition there. It's a process of understanding what is important to your organization's success, understanding your own processes, finding and learning from others, a process that do better than you, and adapting and learning so that you can improve your own performance. So that's like a pretty big mouthful. Now I'm not sure, I hope you can see that. I don't know if the text is big enough. So really what it comes down to is thinking about what is really important in our organization. Whoops, you can see down towards the bottom of the page there. The philosophy is to know your company, know the industry leaders and competitors, and implement best practices and strive for superiority, which sounds like a pretty big ask. So to make this a little bit simpler, there's another definition. Benchmarking is the process where you measure measure your company's success against competitors to discover how you can improve. So the whole thing is finding out who is really good at something, and then what can you do in that area to make an improvement. And what I encourage people to do is first you need to talk to your customers. And like Dave said, looking at their scorecard and measuring things, are you measuring the right stuff? So first and most important in anything that relates to customer satisfaction benchmarking, they all kind of come together. The most important thing is to have that discussion with your customers, and you probably would start with your best customers. They're probably more likely to share ideas with you, put them together in a roundtable discussion or do one-on-ones, whatever, and find out what is most important to them. So if you say quality product, on-time delivery, the length that it takes to process an order, the length from order to delivery, whatever, you've got some elements, and you talk to them and you find out what matters the most. And you might start out with 5 ideas or something like that you generate internally, or maybe you come up with 10 internally and you have a brainstorming internally and say, hey, okay, what do we think really matters? Then you talk to your marketplace, and I would say, like, starting with your key customers would probably be the easiest and the best, and narrow it down and keep narrowing it down and down and down till you have maybe one thing that really matters the most, or maybe 3. You kind of need to judge that as you're going through the process. Then instead of just looking at the competition, you want to know what's going on from a competitive standpoint and see what competitive advantages your competition has. And if you identify, let's say, those 3 things that matter the most to your customers, and you want to kind of see, how's the competition doing on those? And it's not necessarily that you want to find which of your competitors is best. I really think you want to find what company out there that you can find is best. So a lot of people refer to this as a consumer product company, Zappos, the shoe company. And there's things that they do, like a human answers the phone, you order a bunch of shoes, you can send them back, all this kind of stuff that is unique in their business. And they found out what mattered to people and they built the business around that. So keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to find who in your competitive environment is the best. It's good to know what they're all good at and who's best at certain things. However, they might not be the best benchmark because maybe there's somebody else that's light years ahead of our particular industry. And even somebody that's the top in our industry might not be as good as you want to be. So that I wanted to share with that. There's a whole process, you know, you can look at images and all that jazz. So really take a look at what are you doing with your customers each step. If you look at your customer journey, what do they say? What's the process? Just some additional things to look at and figure out where is it most important for you to make improvements. Anyway, let me know if you want any of this information. I could send it to you. Like I said, I got at least 2 to 4 inches. So I have a lot of data. And there's a couple quotes here. The one is striving to be the best of the best. And that's really what benchmarking is about. And I like this Chinese proverb as well. The second one there, it says, if we don't change our direction, we might end up where we're headed. And sometimes we're not headed in the best direction.
Hey, Becky, you probably do this already, but when it comes to benchmarking with people outside of our industries, it's really helpful, even if we use a group like this or other suppliers that you have, right, to connect you with people outside your industry. It's and they can be helpful, and then you owe each other, and we all can hold hands, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Denise. So think about what Denise said, your suppliers, people up and downstream in your channel, people you know from networking or whatever it is. And the other thing that's kind of neat is if they're outside of your industry, like Denise was saying, oftentimes they'll tell you a whole lot more because they have nothing to lose. And a lot of people want to be helpful, and they do that because they want to be helpful or find people that are going to be helpful back to them. And we never know who that source is going to be. So great. Thanks, Denise, for adding that. Now that we went through that heavy duty topic, any other questions come to mind or things to add on? Maybe some of you are doing some benchmarking or have learned particular tips and tricks that you want to share in addition to what Denise shared.
I just wanted to add that I like that you're bringing up the idea, Becky and Denise, about what I would term some cross-pollination. I feel like, having worked in the banking industry for a couple decades, one of the revelations there was to study hospitality, because the hospitality industry does such a great job on the customer experience and how to create stickiness based on really knowing the customer and giving them a very engaging, memorable human experience. So if you can bring that into something like financial services, where people want to go to your banking branch or your banking store. I was at Wells Fargo for 20 years, so we called it stores at the time. It's not an identical transfer, obviously, but definitely I'm liking this discussion, that it's inspiring me to think, in the world I'm in now, like, where can I be cross-pollinating from? Where can I be just gaining more ideas, ideation, right? And maybe bridging that into what I'm doing now.
Excellent, Lori. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody have anything else to add? Because that prompted something in my mind too. And we all are creating our own futures, our own jobs practically every day now. So I think it's important that we have that network of people that we can talk to. One of the things that I have coined a phrase, I call it the brain trust. And Kim is in my brain trust. I would say Lori is in mine. Tom is in mine. Renee in mine. And Denise would be in mine, although I haven't necessarily told you that. So the way I use a brain trust is I say a brain trust is a group of people that you go to that you can bring questions that you're working on or problems that you're trying to solve that know enough that is similar to what you know, kind of come from your background. Like Kim and I work in strategic marketing. Lori has big corporate and she's done a lot of networking and mentoring things. So I might talk to her about some of those things. And we talk about business development ideas. So think about people that have a background somewhat like yours, because then they're going to give you more concrete, helpful information. So, you know, if I was okay, live with the engineer. I love engineers. I get along great with engineers. They're some of my favorite people to work with because they're process, and everything I do is process and pretty much step by step. So I get along great with engineers. And contrary to what a lot of people say, that I just heard people complaining yesterday, oh yeah, they're engineers. Yeah, can't work with those people. Well, you know, it depends. It depends. You just got to figure out how they work and then modify. Anyway, so, but I probably wouldn't go to my husband and have a discussion about networking. For example, some people now have been getting back to me since I used to do lots of talks on networking. Some people are going like, well, could you do that for my group? And I'm thinking, it wasn't exactly what I had on the top of my list. But I'm not going to talk to him about networking unless I said, I've got this whole concept. I've been doing some research on networking for introverts or technical people. And if you know anything about the profiles out there with Myers-Briggs and DISC and you name it, a gazillion and one profiles, you know that technical people are a little more likely to be introverted, and they're a little bit more likely to be task-oriented and not people-oriented. So you know what? I might talk to him about that topic because he might have a lot of insights. He worked his entire career almost exclusively with engineers, and he might even have some stories or some examples. So I encourage you to think about who you can form in this brain trust. And like I said, typically, I think you want to have people that have somewhat like your background so that you can really dig in. I call it talking shop, you know, and I might get in touch with one of you and say, can we talk shop about ABC? And then we just start going and go like crazy. And all of a sudden, you know, because we know each other well enough and our experiences and our backgrounds are complementary, that we can really be helpful. So just wanted to share the brain trust idea. I think I put out a video. I don't know, I've posted on it. So there's an idea for you to also use and put into place. Anybody have an experience? Do you do that now? Lori?
Yes, I do that now for sure. And I love the term brain trust. I sometimes will use my personal board of directors. And something, folks, that I find super helpful is to have at least one, if not more than one person in my brain trust who is next gen, who's somebody in their 20s, digital native. God, the clarity of thought that they bring and the dynamic energy and just the ease in which they think globally. I just find it very refreshing, and it helps me to kind of not become a dinosaur, you know, to just stay sort of fresh and invigorated in my thinking, while I obviously am also routinely connecting with somebody that's in my age and experience category, which is great.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Yes, because now that we have 5 different generations in the workplace, it is a different dynamic. And there are different things. I try to use my 21-year-old as my resource to go, okay, how do you guys work? How do you guys think? What's going on? And he's kind of not typical 21-year-old, I don't think. It's just to brag on him a little bit. My 2 boys are adopted, so I claim none of their talents and skills because I said they came that way. But this kid of mine is Russian. His name is Pavel, goes by Pasha. He worked at Best Buy. And one thing that I thought was kind of hilarious is he goes, Mom, because they have their Best Buy blue shirts. And he goes, Mom, you should see some of the guys. you know, because it was males that were mostly working in the tech area where he was. He said, you should see some of these guys. They come in Docker shorts. And he goes, I mean, really, Mom, can you believe it? And I'm thinking, I'm kind of proud that he thinks that that's not so impressive, because he had his blue shirt, dress gray pants, like nice shoes. And I'm like, you know, this is kind of cool. Well, he was their top salesperson in the district. And he was the one that was the reason that their store hit a record sale for Black Friday. And I think the month of November, this was like a year ago. And I thought, he is really good at certain things and he knows what he's good at. What a gift for somebody that age to already know what their strengths are. Like, this is impressive. And he was asked by the people at Best Buy at his store. They said, could you teach the other people your age how to do what you do and how to sell? And, you know, so there's some like him that I think are a little bit atypical. I don't know where he got all that stuff, but of course, you know, he did start selling his art when he was, I think, 5, and I made him talk to the art galleries and do his own sales pitch and participate in some art shows. You just never know. And so I love the fact that Lori has tapped into different age generations, age cohorts, because we do need to keep up on all that. Things, I think, have just gotten more complicated, and having good resources and information sources is really key. So thank you for sharing that, Lori. And there's my little digression on just go with anything you can. I told my kid, you know, you could be making a pile of money and you could have your own show teaching people from 18 to 28 how to sell, because they don't know how. But he's too busy selling for Apple. Okay, there's my little tidbit today on that. Other questions that you might have that are marketing related, sales related, or if you got something that has prompted an insight that you'd like to share with the group. All righty then. I have another idea that came up. Let me see if I can find what I was going to share with you on that. I recently did a couple of posts on mind mapping. So let's just see, show of hands, who uses mind maps now? Awesome. A lot of mind mappers. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, let me see if I can find the right document. Not exactly. All righty, well, that isn't working. Okay, I think I still have one in my PowerPoint that we were looking at. Okay. There you go. So this is a personal mind map. And just to share with you, because I have gotten an amazing response after my last post, which was really kind of pathetic because I did a video of pieces of paper and I just moved my camera along. And I said, here's the first piece of paper, or here's the first one, here's the second. And I thought, oh, this is so low tech, it's embarrassing. And I had people love it. So I think the whole thing is that people got ideas. So this is a personal mind map. And the reason that I have this in multiple colors is I thought, all right, green might be financial. You can see that over to the left. Down below spiritual, you can't quite tell, but that's purple. And purple is the highest frequency color, the highest resonance, the most spiritual, yada, yada, yada. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. Anyway, if you want to do this, these are the typical 7 spokes that we look at when we're dealing with our personal mission and ideas. What I would say is, like, if you want to take a snip of this or something, I set a timer for 5 minutes. I can usually do this in less than 5 minutes. And the idea with the mind map is you put all the spokes out there and then you come up with the ideas. So let's say that you decided, I'm going to start with the personal and social spoke, which is towards the light there, or the right poking up. And you start coming up with ideas and you think, okay, personal and social. Okay, I'm going to have a date night once a week. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. Well, then when you write that one down, you might decide, what does that mean? Well, I want to have lunch with each one of my kids once a week, or I want to have coffee or whatever. So you start building and filling in. Then you go to work and career and you might say, boy, I got to really get rock solid on my plan for my business, if it's your own business, or for my sales plan or whatever I'm doing. Okay, so you start putting things under your work and career. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, I just had this other idea. I want to put it back in personal and social. You can jump around. So the beauty of doing a mind map, those of you that use them already know this, is it's so flexible. You can just jump in anywhere and add things where some of us might be linear sequential thinkers, although that doesn't seem to be the natural tendency for very many people. And if you're used to doing things with an outline, it's Roman numeral 1 and then A, B, C, and all that kind of stuff. And invariably, you get down to Roman numeral 2, you work on that, you do number 3, you do number 4. All of a sudden you go, oh, I thought of something that goes in 2, and now you have nowhere to put it. So you're like writing out in the margin or trying to squeeze words and put things between lines that don't really have space, and you just get kind of frustrated. So the beauty of a mind map is that you can do this and add to, jump around. You can do this, take 5 minutes, do this. And tomorrow you can have this on a piece of paper and go, oh, I got a couple things here on the mind intellectual. That person in Becky's group mentioned the chat GDP. I'm going to add that. I'm going to research that. I'm going to check that out and see if that might be something that I can use. So just wanted to share this with you because I even had somebody stop me in a store to tell me how much they loved mind mapping. We talked, I don't remember how long, and we kind of both got to the point of going, okay, I guess we better go now. And I think for some people too, we have been really trained and conditioned to be in that logic mode, the left side of our brain, and be forced to be linear sequential. And that doesn't necessarily work. So I think what's happened too is a lot of people were excited about this because they liked the freedom and they liked feeling like, hey, I'm a creative person. And now I'm being told I can be creative and I can work in a way that fits how I function best. And then after you do your mind map and you got a whole bunch of things on it, then you might take, I don't have my index cards here. You might take another piece of paper and then go with the step-by-step Roman numeral or, your 10 ideas, whatever it is, and take it, and then you can put it into more of a structured format. Because obviously most people, if you put together your strategic marketing plan or your sales plan or whatever in something like this and shared it with the group, they might be a little confused. But it might be a good tool for people in your team to work with as well. So I had put together 12 pages that somehow my PDFs I'm not being able to access here for some reason, because I put together one on content because people are almost always asking about content. And that's something that Danielle has expertise in, and plenty of you here do work on content. We've got Renee, who's a writer and she's a blogger and she does all kinds of things in that world, and Kim as well. So, and some of the rest of you, I might not even know that that's a skill set of yours. Anyway, so there's the mind map. Anybody have anything to add on that or have other questions come up? Yes, Kim, you're muted.
When you posted the one on LinkedIn, one of the things that I had mentioned is using a blank wall and going with Post-it notes. And one of the things that I really like about that is we've all got phones on us. And a lot of what we do, you can very easily and very quickly take a shot of that wall and pull it right down into whatever it is that you're working on, in front of you.
Yes, Kim, thank you for that. And that's a great planning tool as well, where if you're in a team meeting and you just tell people, okay, and you give everybody Post-it notes, and then you start putting them up on the wall, like Kim is talking about, then you can usually organize them too. You start seeing some common themes, and then you can start grouping things. It's almost like doing a virtual mind map. Now, the one thing that I guess I'll mention as well for mind maps is there are a bunch of templates online that you can use for mind mapping. And I would guess Kim and Lori and Tom, whoever else raised their hand, maybe Danielle, you probably don't like those because they already are trying to force you into a certain structure. And so what's the beauty of a mind map is you create it and you add, and you've got the flexibility. So if you use a template, if it works for you, go for it. I just find that if you use a template, they're already boxing you in. And that was what we're trying to get away from. So I don't know, has anybody used a template or do you create your own? Yeah, Danielle, what?
There is a software that is currently free called Mind Mapping.
Yeah.
I learned it from a coach. And in our coaching, he would share the screen and he would build these mind maps for me, like who are your referral partners? How do you respond to a client when they reach out and say, how much does it cost for this? And then you have a series of questions that you get asked them to try and formulate, okay, well, what's the context? What's your timeline? What's the value of this? So that you can go through and get a better price, pricing structure. And I forget I think it's actually just called like mind mapping.
Okay.
It's very cool. Yeah, I think if you just Google mind mapping, it's a free thing, which is very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
If I do a mind map exercise to what you're saying, Becky, to keep it super flexible, I will build it in PowerPoint. I enjoy working in PowerPoint because I just feel like it's easy for me to move things around. And I will use mind mapping when I'm preparing to give a talk, because I like to be up without any notes. And when I mind map, I build in pictures. So those become real nice visual anchors that as I'm rehearsing my talk, then I build in some good visual in my mind. So then when I'm standing up, I don't need notes because I've got those pictures that really inspire and help to guide me and keep me on track. So that's a way that I use it.
Thank you, Lori. And that's a great example. On all the sample mind maps that I've made up, I probably have about 20 now. I have not put images in because usually I have so many words that I don't have more space for it. So that's an excellent idea that Lori shared, is to, instead of having all the words, use a picture, a drawing, whatever, an image, or in addition to putting the words on your mind map, you can put in some little icons, simple, almost like stick people drawings that most of us can handle. Great. All right. We got about 10 minutes left. Any questions coming up? I know a couple people had to head out to meetings. Danielle, anything else?
I was just going to say it's called XMind is the software. And you just type it in, you press tab if you want another arm, and you press return if you want things underneath that category, and it just shoots it out for you. So easy, editable, spell check, all that fun stuff.
Okay, awesome. And okay, is it like xmind.com?
The extension of the files is XMind. So yeah, just Google XMind.
Okay, thanks for sharing
Google
that.
everything.
And I like the sounds of that. The ones I don't like is where they already have all the
Prompts.
branches and things pre-built, and then you feel like, now it doesn't let me do what I want to do. So
Yeah,
cool,
this is
great.
completely open-ended.
Yeah, or just draw your own. They're not that
Freeform.
complicated. They're not that hard to do. Okay, super. Questions, comments, anything else here in our last 10 minutes or so?
Is it okay to put out a need?
Sure.
All right. I work part-time at a consulting firm, And we're at the last probably 30% of completing a multi-month study on inclusivity for a municipality. And our researcher has a family emergency outside the United States, and so she has had to exit the project. We are in search of a researcher, somebody who's really skillful at quantitative analysis. Our prior researcher has the qualitative pretty well done. All the data is in SurveyMonkey, or we've already done the tabulation for the focus groups. So I just, all of a sudden, I'm inspired to say, hey, we're looking for a researcher, someone that has bandwidth, who would love to jump on a beautiful project that's in good shape, and it's on inclusivity and safety. Very interesting, good stuff. So please reach out if you know someone.
Okay, I just gave you Steve Zuber. Of course, this is my world that I used to do a lot of work in. CJ Olson. It's a research company. I think they're still around. I have sort of lost touch with a lot of them. There used to be one called, I think it was Quick Research. I would use some of the research companies to do recruiting for me, because if I was doing things in the medical field, it's hard to get people if you're looking for doctors and nurses, and then you got to pay them and that whole rigmarole. But Steve is a great resource. I'm not sure if he does a lot of quant. I know he for sure does qualitative. And a person that has also been one of my teammates might be available. Her name is Jay Schneider, but I'm not exactly sure what she's up to, but I'd have to give you her email. Steve Zuber, you can find on LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure. And he's a good guy. And he's also he's done this enough that he'll tell you what makes sense. Now, obviously you've already got the parameters and everything laid out, so you might be looking more for a technical person to do the work. All right, great. Well, at least it's a marketing question, a marketing resource person. Super. Any other things that might be on your mind? I wish I could get one of my other aspects up here. Maybe I'll just talk about this that I put on one of my ideas, because Danielle has expertise in this area, although she's maybe a little bit more on the graphic side. So I could explain to you the mind map that I did. In fact, I'm going to grab it. And we'll do old school. So here's the mind map for content. And we had a question on content. Lori asked back when we were doing beta. So I don't know if you want to quickly grab a picture or anything of these. These are what this is not gospel. This is just what I put together. So everybody got what you need if you have any interest in this? All right, because it seems like content is one of those things that we all get stuck on, or we get ourselves stressed out or whatever. And it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. I mean, it is sort of. I went through a program from UC California, Davis, quite a while ago, and I've sat through, I don't know how many different sessions done by people like Nancy and Scott, Aaron, and I don't even know all the people. Brenda Meller is a really good resource, more on LinkedIn than specifically content. So if you want, I can walk through some quick ideas here. Would that be something helpful? Hands up. Okay, Ilona, do you have a question, comment, or do you want me to, or do you like this idea?
Yeah, I do have a question. If
Sure.
you have a topic, if you have time to address it. I have not made a determination to use Zoom for training, and yet I know it's an opportunity. Maybe you would be willing, or others would be willing, to share its effectiveness and worth pursuing if you feel like it.
Absolutely. I'll go into that right now, since that's a question that you do have. So I think, and anybody here, Lori does a lot of training. I'm sure she'll have some thoughts. I think Zoom is a really effective tool. What I like about Zoom is that you can record it. You can record it to the cloud, you record it to your computer. You can also do live. So in my Facebook group, again, the group where we're working on marketing plans in the small businesses, I record it on Zoom, and I also put it in our group as a live feed. So you can do a live Facebook, you can do, today we're doing live on YouTube. So hopefully that's all working out. I guess I'll find out later. And what I like about doing things on Zoom is that it opens up the opportunity to have people from all over, and you're not geographically restricted. The other thing is, we all saw, those of us that are in Minnesota, hi Carolyn, those of us that are in Minnesota, we are now trained to work remotely, right? So when we had all the snow days, I have my office at home and have an office here like for 30 years. And then sometimes I'm in a different office. Our official Platinum office is over in Minnetonka, and I don't feel like driving over there because that's like a 40-minute drive. So I've had my office at home forever. And a lot of people, Danielle probably works from home, Lori from home part of the time. A lot of us now know how to work from home. So that's where Zoom can be a great thing, because let's say that we had a meeting or we had a training session, a workshop already set up. Well, with our stupid snow days that we had, hey, no big deal. We are good to go because we got Zoom, we got our computer, and hopefully you don't have some internet service that got goofed up with snow, which sometimes can happen. So I think it's a great resource, and you've got, like I said, those options of doing the lives, and you're going to go with live. The other thing is, if you do live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or whatever, live shows isn't probably the right terminology, but that is one of the most popular video aspects out there right now. So if you also use live, you're kind of on trend. So that opens up opportunities. The other thing that you would want to do is record your Zoom sessions. I've got mine all recorded. I haven't done anything with them yet. I want to do a little bit more research, and the ones that I've done in groups like this, I think would be really great podcasts. So there's that option that you can do when you record them. You can turn them into more of a workshop that, depending on how you do things, you could, if you've got a good network of people, you could say, hey, come to my workshop. You already recorded on Zoom. You could break it into modules, and all of a sudden you got a 3-module or a 5-module or something workshop that you can sell. And then, of course, the real add-on for that is that then you make a handout, a workbook. You could do that in Canva, you could do it in Word, whatever. And then you say, okay, that's only $17 for my 3-module workshop. If you want to upgrade to the book, the materials, that's $47. And my friend Jonathan, when he did that in his program, 50% of the people that signed up for his workshopy thing to buy his 3-5 modules, whatever it was, 50% of them paid the extra, which was more than it cost to do his workshop online. And they paid that extra to get the materials. So there's just different things. I think it gives you some additional options and flexibility. And again, if you do it in Zoom, you can do a Zoom all by yourself if you just want to get a recording. And then you can work with that, or do it in a live. I don't know as much about how you can manipulate the live feeds. But again, there's different options. It just opens up a whole new world for you.
Yes, thank you. I like that very much. I actually have a Telegram account, and I have some presentations that I did quite a while ago, and it's not a category that I can regularly market, shall we say. And so I decided I'm just going to use it to upload those things and then just have it as part of my tagline on my email. So I'm just starting from the simplest and easiest at this point, not as complex as probably some others are. So I do appreciate a lot of the insight and teaching from today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for the questions. Thank you, everybody. And I know it's about time to wrap it up. We can always do something about content another time. We'll be back on the first Friday in February. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy this. We're going to have a drawing, so don't disappear if you're still here. We're going to have a drawing. I just want to thank you for being here. Maybe I can put up again for anybody that wants to know how to reach me. Well, what the heck? You probably got my email and you got me on LinkedIn, and we all know where we all are. But here, let me give you this again. So there's the different ways. Not that you can't reach me another way, but there's my free Facebook group. We just had a couple more people add to that yesterday. The journal that I have come up with that I love is going to be available January 20th. And then my email address at Platinum is the last link. So I'm going to actually stop this again quickly. If there's anything you want, just grab them, put your phone up there and it'll preload, and there you are, good to go. Which is another thing, if anybody needs to know this. Now that I've figured out the QR code mystery, I can also give you some resources, as Danielle, I'm sure, is a wizard at this, but there's some free resources where you can actually get colored ones. And you can say, hey, Facebook's color is blue, so I'm going to do my Facebook thing in blue. My book is a certain color, I'm going to do that. So you can play around and make it a little bit more interesting. So this is not our drawing today, but I wanted to tell you about this just briefly, because that was that other link that you saw. And this idea came really about in a couple different ways, but my idea here is to get people to record their ideas, hopes, and dreams. And you can see this one is going to Nikki Vincent. So it's personalized. You can, if you buy any, you can write people's names on there. I love that. I have the gold and I've got silver. I'm sort of like a nerd and have to do all these weird things. So that book is being released on the 20th. This is my first batch of previews. We've changed the font here. So because we do have people that are under 30 that don't read cursive. And I think that recording ideas, hopes, and dreams is something I want to encourage for any age, whether they can read cursive or not. Like I told my group yesterday when I was speaking at a Chamber of Commerce, I said, you know, those of us over 30, this is our secret code. Writing in cursive. We have something now that we can do. Anyway, I'm going to give away 2 books, and it's going to be the Love from Grandma book. So I'm going to pick, okay. Patty, is Patty still here? Patty on the phone. Patty, are you here? Can you hear me? Because I don't know Patty's last name, or I could try.
Sorry, I am still here. I was in the chat thing.
Okay, so I will need to get a mailing address from you, and I will mail you the book. It's called Love from Grandma.
Wonderful.
Oh, and Curtis, have you won one before?
I have not.
Okay, because I picked your name. I didn't get my sophisticated spinner computerized thing going, so old school works on that. Okay, well, that is awesome. Thank you so much for joining. And Patty, did you grab my email address off of the QR code?
Not yet. I'm hoping my friend Vicky, who's on the call, did though. Actually, I'm a director of a nonprofit, and this is the first time I'm starting to listen to all this marketing and things we need to do for our nonprofit. So thank you.
I've got her email, Patty. So I
Okay,
can
thank
with
you.
her.
Okay, and I just put it right now in the chat. So
Okay.
you're welcome to use the Platinum. I've got Gmail. I've got everything. So thank you, all of you, for being here and participating and bringing questions. And if you didn't have questions, just listening to my sharing ideas and thoughts on things, we're going to be back here in 1 month on February, whatever that first 3rd. It looks like February 3rd. And if this was helpful, drop me a note and let me know. I hope it was, that you've got some ideas that you could use or answered some questions. And the other thing, invite your friends for February so that we can get some more momentum and share all of this great knowledge that we are having as a group with other people. I guess that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
And
Patty.
just
Thank you
make
so
sure,
much.
Curtis and Patty, that you get in touch. And if you wanted to save the chat, everybody knows how to do that. Your 3 little dots over there in the corner, you might want to, if you
yeah.
feel there's something you want to save it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. See
Thank
ya
you.
online
Thanks.
or in a month.
Thank you.
Thank you.